At Profile Growing Solutions, success is what we grow best. Partnering with growers to optimize inputs and strengthen plant performance. Walking alongside you to deliver growing solutions. For every scale, for every step, and for every type of grower. Solutions like hydrofiber, an innovative and highly engineered media that grows better plants for better margins. And Floracan controlled release fertilizers. High quality nutrition that ensures a steady supply of nutrients for more consistent plant growth quality. Ready to start growing a more successful season? Learn more at profilegrowing.com.
Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we're shaping the future of floriculture one conversation at a time. We talk with the growers, leaders, and innovators shaping tomorrow's greenhouse industry today. From market trends, next generation plants, and innovative production, to the challenges and breakthroughs redefining what it means to grow. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. Let's dig into what's next together. In late January of this year, our team at Greenhouse Grower broke the news that Smith Gardens, a Pacific Northwest-based fourth-generation top 100 growing operation, had been acquired by the Hoffmann Family of Companies, which just last year had also acquired NG Heimos Greenhouses in Illinois. The partnership expands Hoffmann's rapidly growing agricultural assets into a new geographic region, and perhaps more importantly, it allows Smith Gardens to continue operating under its current leadership while building for a strong future. I recently caught up with Eric Smith, Chief Executive Officer of Smith Gardens, and Clayton Jones, Executive Vice President of Corporate Development at Hoffmann Family of Companies, to learn more. Here's our conversation. So Eric and Clayton, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's an honor to be talking with you.
Sure, absolutely. So I know it's been about a month since we posted the news about Smith Gardens being acquired by Hoffmann Family of Companies. Want to dig into the conversation here and just first find out why this move was made, and then getting into the details. Why this was the right time for this kind of announcement to take place.
Sure, Brian. Thanks. First let me say that Mark and I are not going anywhere as owners and leaders in our company. Our leadership team is unchanged, and our people, our operations, products, services, commitments remain the same as they've been before the transaction, as will be after the transaction as well. But
Okay.
it's a good question, and it's a little bit of a backstory, and so let me back it up a bit and tell you
Yeah, sure.
how we got here. Several years back, our business advisors asked us about next stages of growth and our aspirations, and also about leadership development and succession planning, and really going after answering those questions for the next 10 years around business growth and expertise needed to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Mark and I love what we do. We're personally healthy, have a healthy balance sheet, plus there are business opportunities to grow and develop that were right in front of us several years past when they were asking us these questions.
Yeah.
And it was true. At the beginning of 2024, we're in the middle of a 5-acre build in Oregon when Skagit Horticulture announced that they were closing. And so
Sure.
we shifted gears. And 2 months later, we moved into their main facility in Mount Vernon and took on 24 acres of greenhouse and grew our business. There were other changes going on in the industry as well, particularly the young plant side of things. And Pacific Plug and Liner, our young plant company in California that's focused mostly on perennials, but also on some specialty plants, was
Yeah.
going like crazy. There were some service programs that we had taken on, and really all that came together for one of our biggest years of growth in 2024. And we didn't really address the question with our advisors. And so they came back to us and said, "Hey, so what about that? What about that thing we asked you about business planning and succession planning?"
Yeah.
And I think Mark and I saw these types of opportunities, and our thinking matured a bit regarding our own business, other greenhouse businesses, and families in transition in our region, and really beyond our region in the country,
Sure.
and the nature of consolidation in our industry. And essentially, we came to a conclusion that with a solid platform of leadership and management coupled with good financial stewardship, that there will be more opportunities for growth like we experienced in 24. Um, we need to be prepared to take some of those 2 + 2 = 5 opportunities that
Hmm.
may come and present themselves to us in the future. So, those advisors said, get on it, guys. And so we got together with um, our outside advisors, our outside business accountants, attorneys, and began scenario planning really around taxes and financial planning.
Okay.
And we had some business ties that we needed to clean up with our parents, um, that just to bring that to completion and to fruition as well.
Right.
Um, so then we also invested some time in developing a relationship with a business broker that could help us and advise us in our process. And
Yeah.
that was very helpful as well.
Okay.
Um, all this while Mark and I are aspiring to continue to lead and develop and grow the business. So let me back up just a few more steps because how do we get to even that point?
Hmm.
Because we had thought we had maybe 3 paths to go down, even before we considered an equity partner. And the first was family leadership. Mark and I, when we began in the business, when we purchased the business from our parents, we were 38 and 32.
Okay.
We had been in the company for 12 and 7 years each, um, already in leadership in 2004. We had been through our share of good things and really hard things and had some of those learnings behind us when we took control. Fast forward today, our kids are young, doing other things, are not aspiring to be in leadership. And so the family situation was such that we need to look at maybe some other ideas as well. And so
Yeah.
we thought about a strategic merger. And in order to preserve our culture, we kind of moved on to more of a private equity, family equity type of situation.
Sure.
Um, and look for one that aligned with our values, our long-term stewardship goals, a cultural match, and really a family orientation. And so when
Okay.
we met Clayton and the Hoffmann family, it was quickly clear that they valued long-term relationships, uh, customer focus,
Yeah.
growing a great team, just as we do. And as we considered a partner for the next phase of our growth, um, culture was a top priority, and we found the right alignment here. Mark and I are honored to remain at the helm and maintain the continuity that began with our great grandfather and father and mother
Yeah.
and team. And, we really see a bright future in the partnership with the Hoffman family um, as we continue to grow our business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Clayton, I want to get your perspective on that here in just a second from the Hoffman family side of things. Before I get to that, though, I do want to, Eric, one of the very first points you made was about the fact that you and your brother, you're not planning on going anywhere. You guys are still young, but yet you started this conversation now. And I think that's critical because you hear so many times in this industry that that these types of conversations on where's the business going to go in the future don't take place until it's too late, and then you're forced to have a different kind of conversation if you don't address this early. So I think that's an important step that you guys took was to be able to look down the road and say, okay, let's not worry about where we are now. Let's look at where we want to be in the future.
Yeah, I think it's critical to have business advisors pressing you on that thing because the business is so busy. It
Yeah,
is very easy to put that thing off until it's a crisis. It was really great to have that team come alongside us and push us pretty hard.
sure, sure, absolutely. Clayton, let's get your perspective from the Hoffman family of company side of things. So, why was this the right time for you guys to, make an acquisition like this, and why did you go down this road?
Yeah, so we're very acquisitive in general. We have a lot of industries that we have interest in, and we're growing fairly quickly, both organically and in the businesses and portfolio, and inorganically through acquisitions and
Sure.
partnering with great folks. Um, you know, I had the same impression from Eric, meeting him that that they were really aligned with the type of thing that we look for, right? Family oriented, long term focus. You know, we are always looking to acquire and support businesses and have a very long-term focus on things. We don't sell businesses. We're not a PE where we have to, roll out the fund and get raise the next one.
Right.
This is the Hoffman family's enterprise, and they look for things, businesses and people that we think can, go the long haul, that we'd like to have, partnerships and in the portfolio for generations on our side. Now things are moving pretty quickly, so
Yeah.
who knows what's happening in 50 years, but we have no intent then to do other than to support management. We wouldn't have engaged if we didn't really like the brothers, the Smiths, and their team. We saw just great systems, great people, growth mindset, not to be puns, right? But growth mindset and you know, really conscientious people. And the process you're talking about, the paths of waiting till it's too late, right? The process, just having the thought process of saying, hey, let's take a measured approach at this and look at, the long-term stability. We are essentially a bit of an insurance policy for,
Mhm.
long-term stability, right? We have there's no indication, just to be clear, but, the plane crashes or, just crossing the bus, crossing the street at the wrong time and
Yeah.
then something happens, right? Um, and we'll carry that torch. We will be a rock to build this on, for many, many years.
Mm.
Um, and we have a lot of interest in the agricultural industries, not, big food production, but we have wineries and we have herb production. We have several floriculture businesses. The family has, small town Americana roots. And, I think that shows through in their interests and what they like. And
Yeah.
frankly, we like the team, we like what they're doing. But then the other thing is we love the industry because people love it. People love flowers and nature and what they're growing. We like to provide, a service that's really that people like. I can't imagine any world, no matter how technologically savvy it gets, I can't imagine a world in which gardening is not, a hobby that brings people joy, forever. It's ingrained in us as people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, you know, maybe a wide-ranging version of why, but I think that aligns. And the Smiths in particular, they do have a family mindset. We love family businesses because we have a family business. We love that they were looking for a partner and not a handover. Right? We don't we're not experts in every business that we're involved in. We look to the leaders to continue leading. We want to partner and continue growing together. And I think I have a lot of faith in Eric and through the process. Right, it's not always the easiest thing to go through the selling of pieces of the family legacy, but at the end of the day, we're here to preserve that legacy and grow it together. So.
Yeah, well, it's that preserving of the legacy that I think is the key part of this, and I do wanna dig into that a little more as well as we get into the discussion. It's funny though, I remember having this similar conversation a little less than a year ago at this time when Hoffman family purchased NG Heimos, and I was started to look at the portfolio of companies and industries that Hoffman's involved in. I was like, "Man, this is so diverse." And as you said, you've got, players in this industry, whether it's on the growing side with Heimos and now Smith Gardens. You've got Hillerman was part of the company as of a couple of years ago, and even looking back even further, minor league hockey teams is something that stood out to me. So the fact that you guys are involved in so many different industries, and yet to your point, you see the value of connecting with an operation like Smith Gardens, which has such a long leg and a legacy in the industry, in an industry that you really get the sense that the Hoffman family really holds dear and holds value to the future. So I think that's something that really is highlighted by a decision like this. So
Yeah, and just anchoring on that a little more, right? We don't say Hoffman Smith Gardens. It's Smith Gardens, and we put a little, our HF stamp under the logo, right?
right.
But that's another thing that sets us apart from private equity. Aside from not being a turn and burn, we need to make changes to make the rate of return. That's not the way we operate. But the family wants to be proud of the businesses that that have our name, next to the brand, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that again, just the way that the brothers have organized and grown over time and just the thoughtfulness in every aspect of their business really spoke to us, very heavily. So,
Okay. Eric, when this news was announced, how did you communicate this with your customers and your partners, and highlight the fact that this is part of helping you build a strong future for Smith Gardens?
Yeah, it was kind of intense couple of days there that we did the communication, and it was, we, pick up the phone, make the calls, get people on, and, the first thing I said is the first thing I said at the front of this interview is, "Mark and Eric aren't going anywhere. Leadership is staying the same,
Yeah.
and everyone is in their same roles and same processes, and your contracts and all that is the same. Nothing's changing."
Mhm.
And really, continuity was our message from the beginning, and it is all the way through, and it is what we intend. Our goal is that we continue serving our customers with consistency and reliability, being the best quality plants, garden experience to more people, and so that continuity is our goal. Just that maintaining our leadership. This is a tough business.
Yeah.
We internally aspire to be a great place to work, and for us, that means growing individuals um, that will make Smith Gardens their long-term career. It almost kind of goes without saying, and we have to remind all of us sometimes we can't operate in silos. We are an interdependent process business.
Sure.
Perishable products from all over the world, logistical complexities. There's a consumer facing aspect where people buy based on the quality of a display
Mhm.
and the impression and their own whims and impulses in the moment when they walk past our product.
Sure.
So that just doesn't happen. It takes a team to make that happen, and we don't forget it. And we get judged on it every day as people walk past our plants in stores. So I think the other piece of this was for us to invest confidently in the future. There's growth. You have to be growing. Uh,
Mhm.
there's innovations coming, and there's infrastructure that both needs to grow and sometimes be replaced. So making good decisions around technology, people expansion is important. And we found that in strengthening our financial foundation with the Hoffman team, um, building on opportunities that we have and future opportunities that will come.
Yeah, well, and that's something too, I wanna talk about a little bit more as well, the ability to, innovate for the future, whether it's, incorporating new technology. I used to hear comments that this is a like a maturing industry, but I mean, I think that there's so much new innovation coming onto the scene, and there's so many different opportunities, whether it's something like that or just building a team for the future and bringing in, the next generation of growers and all that. How does this help you kind of build for that future?
Well, I think it's just that I think we've invested heavily in software, in connected, I say ERP, but it's not just ERP. It's all the connecting pieces to service in the field, to trucks, to communication to get people working together is kind
Mhm.
of where what we think of software to do. I'm excited for the next stages of replenishment and being smarter about how we get product to stores. We always have places to improve in the genetics and in the quality of what we grow in the greenhouse. All of that is people oriented, and growing our team is kind of the um, paramount. My role as
Mhm.
CEO is to grow the team and
Yeah.
help the team grow the business, and really excited about those types of things going on. Yes, there's automation and things. Those things are natural processes that we continue to look at, and whether it's taking the lifts and the moves and the strains out of people's backs and twists and knees and all that kind of stuff with forklifts or with other types of moving equipment, that's great too. But really, the automation of communication is probably the best thing we can be doing to drive our business forward.
Okay. Clayton, from your perspective, as you look at what some of your the long term goals are from a move like this, what do you kind of see in terms of how this can help, this industry build for the future, but then also, as Hoffman looks ahead as well?
sure. I think, you know, building on what Eric said, he mentioned siloing and just sort of some of the having to focus on the business as it stands today, working in the business. One of the things that I hope that we're adding to the table here is certainly some coverage for back office items, right? We have great support in terms of, marketing people, IT back end, they have a great IT team, by the way. So it's not all things to all people, but legal counsel, right? It's not necessarily that they're going to have in-house. Some of that support just means it's something that they're not going to have to worry about.
Sure.
Incomes, things that are, just making it easier. The other thing that I think is interesting about the industry in general is there's a great community here. There's a lot of sharing. There's a lot of regionality to it because hey, you can talk fairly openly with a grower in Florida because you're not going to be stepping on each other's territory, right?
Yeah.
That said, even there, it helps to have people with a truly, on the same team in certain ways and have a little bit more open discussion to share best practices. This is working for us. This is what we're seeing in the market. This is, where we think trends are going, or, hey, we tried out this automation and it didn't work very well. But hey, we have a solution. What if you tried this? Right. And so there's a lot more of that. I think the community that's in horticulture in general is fantastic with the openness. But I think having a step above and seeing even not just from floriculture, but they have their young plants business and we have herbs and just seeing different aspects of the industry, what's happening in slightly different silos from slightly
Yeah.
different geographies. It's a really, positive step and can help elevate from, again, working in the business to working on the business. And, we hope that while we're absolutely, Eric and Mark are calling the shots, right? They're absolutely in running the business. We hope to be a great sounding board for them on strategic decision making and
Yeah.
directing, and to provide, uh, additional sounding board, right? Just a team to help so that they're not making decisions on an island. They talked about going to their outside financial advisors, and it's like, that's great to have outside advisors, but it's great to have people that are on your team, but also have, wide perspective as well, right?
Sure, sure. Well, and that perspective I think is important too, because, and I know Eric, you can speak better to this, but you know, growers love to talk to each other at a conference or at an industry gathering, but more and more we hear about the need to tap into knowledge from other industries that may not even have any sort of connection to horticulture, but these are still businesses running in certain ways, and what you can learn from somebody else. I got to think that's part of looking at your future as well.
Yeah, I think that, listening to conversations about machine learning,
Mm,
artificial intelligence, the future's coming at us pretty fast from a connection and absorption of information. We're getting by store, by SKU, by day, sometimes by half day information coming at us that will make us smarter on where and how we put plants and how often we replenish plants. Um, and it's, yeah, we have our tools and we look at them, and I'm in the tools we were using 3 years ago. We kind of go, whoa, what were we thinking back then? To the tools we're using now, and no doubt 3 years from now, 2 years from now, maybe 18 months from now, we'll scratch our heads and go, were we really doing it that way? Or
yeah,
how did we let this standard? How did we not let standard work rule our core uh, um, processes? How did we let this? How did we wing this in years past? You can't anymore.
right.
So, really, I mean, that's both technology, but it's also about process and people. Uh, um, really diving into the professionalism of their careers, and so we're really excited about people who want to grow their careers with us and dive into the details of what it makes to be a good individual grower or a good individual supply chain
Sure.
working as a team to put those things together.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's funny you used the word sustainability or not sustainability, stability a few minutes ago, and it reminded me. I had a conversation this morning with somebody else who they were saying, if there's one thing that this industry really needs right now, it's some stability because you look at what happened during and the coming out of the COVID pandemic years, just all the various fluctuations, and I used to have conversations where growers are trying to plan ahead 5 years down the road. Now it seems like it's just planning next year or two is more challenging than ever. How does something like this kind of help build that stability as you guys plan ahead?
Oh, it's I don't know if I have a perfect answer for that because I think I'm 1 season down the road, with an eye towards some of the innovation, capital requirements, and leadership development in about 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I have some folks, and then I'm 54, and at some point I will be, you know, 65 or 70, and there will be eventualities to all this. And so I haven't thought too much about being 65 or 70 because there's so much to be done here in the here and now in this 1 year time frame. Um, but I think it's just important to have a little bit of an eye down that road, and that but don't look too far because you probably can't see it far enough ahead. You
Mhm.
probably what's 5 years ahead. Don't waste your time on it,
Yeah, yeah, for
unless
sure.
it's family financial types of things.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and people sort of things. But man, technology and business processes, those things are happening right now. And from a stability of the industry standpoint, people really like plants. People
Mhm.
like gardening. I think this is pretty stable from a when you look at some other industries right now, man, I this is a really pretty good spot to be in from a stability of demand. Yeah, there's some supply things going on that are tough. Yes, there's labor challenges that are tough, but from a demand standpoint, it's pretty good, pretty steady, relative to some other folks. And and at the end of the day, we are delivering heavy products only so far.
Yeah,
Business continues to be a regionally oriented business that has some pretty good barriers to entry, either from other countries or even from faraway regions.
sure, sure. Clayton, getting your perspective on that as well. I know, one and you talked about this earlier in the conversation. One of the good things I see about a move like this is, as you said, you're not making this acquisition and then, going in and trying to, run the day-to-day operation sort of thing. I mean, you guys, have your support, but you're also, letting, the team at Smith Gardens kind of navigate their future. And I think that's critical to something like this.
Absolutely. And this is an analogy we use. We're not mom and dad, coming in, making sure you do your homework and tie your shoes and your room's picked up and all that, right? We're sort of like grandma and grandpa. We'll show up, for your birthday and Christmas and ask how you're doing. We're there for loving support and not for day to day whatever, right? We're hopefully we don't have to have conversation about wrecking the car, but at the end of the day, uh, we're not there for day to day oversight. We're there
Sure.
for the strategic sounding board and guidance and whatnot. And one of the things bringing folks together, the other businesses in the portfolio are generally operating similarly. Like the CEOs are truly CEOs of their businesses. They're standalone. We do have some touch points where we try to foster relationships, but all those are done on a very, you know, uh, arm's length basis
Mhm.
between companies, right? We know that Eric's going to do what's right for his company. We can certainly make an introduction, but if it doesn't make sense to have our, metal fabrication company make their carts, they're not going to do it, right? We're not going to
Yeah.
coax them to do it, but we do have, not just the wide range of agricultural businesses, but view into other industries as well. And we have a lot of automation chops in things like pure industrial fabrication, that kind of thing. And when we have our annual summit where all the CEOs of the businesses get together and kind of wave the flag and, talk about, developments amongst themselves, we usually see a lot of collaboration come out of that in terms of maybe not, direct buying from each other or whatever, but just
Sure.
getting an idea of what other people are experts in and how that might affect your industry. And that's kind of where we hope that this will continue to evolve. And you know, we're very happy that that the leaders that we bring together are all, I think, fairly well aligned with a lot of the same kind of family principles and employees focus, making sure we're great places to work, that kind of thing. And that's part of making sure there's no weeds in the garden to begin with, right? And then also, you know, they're all there working together. We're all on the same team, and that's part of what we like to promote. So,
Okay. Okay. As we start to wind down the conversation here, I'll ask a twofold question for each of you, and we'll start with Clayton on this one. What's next then for Hoffman Family Companies, and then also, what are you most excited about when it comes to the future of this floriculture industry?
yep. Yeah, so, I have to say we're growing on kind of all directions all the time. You talked about minor league hockey. You might search major league hockey. There's some things floating around there. Can't talk too much about it, but
Sure.
there's we are the family is their motto of finding good people and empowering them is an extremely powerful thing for growth, and that's allowing us to grow in a lot of different directions simultaneously. Certainly industries where we have uh, you know, particular interests such as floriculture, horticulture, viniculture. Those are areas that we continue to develop in.
Yeah.
We don't have any, roll up plans. We're not doing that like a private equity company would. These are businesses that we like, and we hope that they'll collaborate to an extent. But you know, we're just looking for growth, and we want to be the Rock of Ages, solid foundation for anybody in the portfolio, and helpful wherever we can be in whatever capacity. So
It's funny that the hockey thing made me laugh too because my brother, who lives in Toledo, he's a huge Toledo Walleye fan, and so I think when I had this conversation around the Heimos acquisition time last year, the Toledo Walleye had just lost their league championship to one of the teams that you guys own. So I had to console him afterwards. Say, I talked to the owner of the team who just beat you guys, but sorry about that. Um, so Eric, on your perspective there, so then what's next for Smith Gardens through this, and then
Yeah.
what are you most excited about when it comes to the future of the industry?
Yeah. Yeah. First and foremost, we're about continuing to build a team ready for the challenges that are coming at us. And said earlier, cost of labor and period, order fulfillment, endless challenges to improve the quality of our products and processes, from growing to transportation to merchandising. All of those have unique individual challenges to overcome. There's no lack of places for us to improve our business. It's both, as I said earlier, it's a 1 year look, but it's also doing the things that allow you to be in a place 3 to 5 years, from the innovation and capital requirements and leadership development as well.
Yeah,
We have a busy spring ahead of us in the Pacific Northwest. Greenhouses are full. We're poised to have a great season. Need the weather to cooperate and warm up a little bit.
sure.
At Pacific Plug and Liner, we're at our first peak of young plants, and then we'll be down at the Polo Fields in Santa Barbara for the cast event at the end of March.
Yeah,
Then we look forward to booking our second peak of season. That's summer roses and perennials, and it's really the young plant business right now is really dynamic in the perennial side of things. Do some other things going on in the industry, and I really think it's excited times to be in the flower business. And I think with the media beating the drum on some real sort of doom and gloom challenges in the world,
mhm,
um, it's hard to watch. I mean, maybe entertaining to watch the news at night, but it's also hard. And I think people are looking for, um, we're excited that people look for ways to get away from that and the passion that comes from putting your hands in the dirt and gardening. Um, and then for us, it's really about bringing the next generation of consumers and gardeners to loving what we do for a living, bringing plants to people. And I think the future's really bright for our product and for the folks that I was just at a new genetics rollout, and man, there's so much new, great, fun stuff coming uh, in the industry from a breeding and from a bring it to market faster and at less expense. We hope we can figure out ways to bring it at less expense. So there's no places to leave unturned to go after in our business and then in our industry as well.
Thank you for joining us. You can learn more about this and other topics at greenhousegrower.com, and you can also follow Greenhouse Grower on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and please leave us a rating or review as it helps other listeners find the show. The Greenhouse Grower to Grower podcast is produced by the team at Meister Media Worldwide. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower.